Sounds like the speaker's doing a little bumpy bump over there. Cut that off. Happy New Year's Eve, everyone. Right?
Yes. Hello. Jaxie. Say hello.
So Jack's the rescue kitten with no tail on New Year's Eve. Not terribly long ago, we found him underneath an ice machine at the club in which we teach, and that's Mirror Lake Club in Mobile, Alabama, and he's getting bigger. What do you think?
He is getting bigger.
He's definitely getting bigger. All right?
Mm-hmm.
You ready to lock in?
All right, baby.
Let's
I'm gonna let you
go.
go.
Let's go. All right. Welcome back to another year of the 5K tennis discussions. We've been doing this now for 5 years, believe it or not. Nice to be still sitting here. I think at one point in time that I think more along the lines of you at that point, thought that no one would really pay attention. No one cares about tennis anymore. And here we are.
Yeah, I don't think the same, but tennis is a tough. I don't think too many people watch tennis shows or are excited about tennis. You know, it's still that type of sport that it takes, I guess, someone understanding the game or someone who's trained a long time to understand it, that you could be passionate about the sport.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not like soccer. Soccer, you got fans everywhere. You know, American football, that's all they do here. Baseball, worldwide.
Basketball.
Yeah. Tennis is a little bit different. You know, I think I was telling Ryan, we were having a conversation. I'm not going to mention the whole conversation because some people might hate me, you know, so I'm not going to say anything. But if you have family members, tennis is one of those sports that you can't just say, hey, let's go play. You know, they don't know. It takes a lot of training to learn the game. It's not like, let's go throw a football. Let's go shoot a basketball, you know? You can do that with your family. But tennis is one of those sports that takes a long time to master.
Yeah.
Not anyone can do it.
And how many people do you think over the years, an X amount of years, how many people do you think over the years look at the game of tennis and they say, you know, I can do that. And they go to, you know, the local sporting goods store or Walmart, whatever it may be, and they pick up a tennis racket or two. And then they buy a can of balls, and then they venture out to the court and they commence to playing the game. And then within a few minutes, they tell themselves, gee whiz, you know, this is really quite difficult. And so they go home and then the rackets, they just toss, you know, somewhere, and ultimately they're never picked up again. How often do you think that happens?
I would say more than half. More than half, especially when they realize, well, maybe I can learn a game. And they realize it's not cheap to learn it as well. And you're not going to learn it in a few sessions.
You know, that's debatable. You know, Carla just indicates that tennis isn't an easy game to learn. Now, I will say this, that my father, 84 years young, he'll probably watch this at some point in time, would absolutely just yell at you and call you an idiot for saying that, because
that's okay. It's not cheap.
When I was a child, he would always tell us that you can have a broomstick or a broken bottle and you can find something to whack a piece of paper ball with, and you can ultimately learn the game of tennis. Now, there's much more than just playing the game of tennis that is fortuitous to life. Sportsmanship and fitness and hand-eye coordination, blah, blah, blah. The list goes on. But yes, a lot of the time people go and they assume, and assumptions are generally wrong, that tennis is easy. They pick up a racket, you know, a can of balls or so, and then they feel like they can just go out and play. And then they realize that it's much more difficult.
The worst for me is when I hear someone from Alabama, you know, because most people in Alabama, their big thing is football. That is their big sport, or baseball, right?
Yeah.
And we've heard this before when we used to teach in Dauphin Island. You know, they would make the sounds. That's a girl sport. You know, I remember saying, you know, my boys when they played, that's a girl sport. Yet if I gave them a racket or a tennis ball, guarantee you they wouldn't know what to do. But it's a girl sport.
Right. And she's alluding to, for about 5 years, we taught at a location that had a couple of courts lined up against the street. And every time cars would pass, there was a bar that was nearby, and the people would roll down their windows and hang out the sunroofs or hang out the window going, you know, screeching like a lot of the players do these days, you know, trying to be comical about it. And we do have a segment about screeching in 2023 on this show. And again, by the way, we cut out yesterday because of thunderstorm, just never tapered off. We live in Dolphin Island, Alabama, which
Our
is
cat keeps
which is a barrier island off the coast of southern Alabama. And the internet, to say the least, is finicky on a clear day, much less if there's a thunderstorm rolling overhead. And that happened yesterday. So sorry about that. It does happen. All right. Speaking of New Year's Eve. So today is New Year's Eve. And I was just curious, if you had one place that you wish you could be right now for New Year's Eve, where would that place be? One place. What would it be with your family? Would it be in Hawaii? Would it be in Switzerland? Where would that place be, and why? And if you want to put that in comments, we'll definitely read that. Me, my wish would be obviously to be with my family, and they are all here. But my destination would be at the Fish Show at Madison Square Garden tonight in New York City. That's where I wish I was. I mean, unfortunately, I'm not, and I'm perfectly content with being here. But that would be where I wish I was, the Fish Show at Madison Square Garden. Carla, how about you?
I mean, for me, obviously, with the whole family, meaning the whole family, my parents, my brother, your parents, everybody. But New York would be the place for me. Not at the Fish concert, definitely not. I would want to be in New York with my friend, my best friend, my family, and all that. Not at the Fish concert. And I lived in New York for a long, long time, and I never got to see the ball drop. Never went. So I would want to go there.
Okay, so me, Fish Show in New York City. You, ball drop, New York City. How about you? A good question, and I look forward to seeing some of the answers. Secondly, do you have any New Year's resolutions? Something that you have just been pontificating about, you've been thinking about, something that you feel like right now that you need to do, and you need to make a New Year's resolution to do it.
I know everybody says lose weight, eat better, sleep more. I think for me is work harder, learn more about the game, because there's always something, and teach your best that you can teach. Be better than I was last year.
I think our motto for 5K tennis is
be better than last year.
Live well, have fun, and be better. But my question to you is, though, Carla, how can you possibly work any harder? I think
one thing I want to see is, a lot of people, I teach a lot of ladies, a lot. I get a lot of ladies and a lot of little kids because they always say, hear about you and blah, blah, blah. I want to make those students be a lot better, especially the younger ones. I want to be known for not teaching a stupid two-handed volley backhand, teaching the proper way to serve, teaching kids and adults how to be smart players and not just hit the ball. I want to be known for that. Don't you want to be known for that as well?
Okay, you just took my whole thought process out of my head. So you just said that you wish you could teach, quote unquote, adults as well.
No, I teach them already.
Okay. You mentioned that you wish you could help at least maybe be better at it, teaching adults to be smart players.
And the kids.
Okay, now correct me if I'm wrong. The other day you mentioned that one of our older students didn't want to take from me anymore because all I did was talk about being the smarter player. So okay, so how does that even make any sense? You're telling me, you told me that is
no, not by talking. What I'm talking about is being even more passionate about it.
How can you teach people to become a better player if you're not telling them why?
Everybody has a different teaching method, okay? Not every coach works for every student. Mm-hmm. My dad didn't like coaches that talked a lot. I'm being honest with you. So he would.
How if you can't describe anything, how can you teach someone to be a better player?
You can, but not to. I'm not saying that you talk a lot. Maybe there are students that don't like me, Justin.
Mm-hmm. Pot calling the kettle black right there.
But there's students that don't like me. You know that, right?
Yeah.
There's quite a few that rather have lessons with you. That's not what I was trying to get to. You just changed everything. What I'm saying is, when we go to those junior tournaments, you want to be known, and people go, wow, look at that player. They're thinking, they're slicing, they're using different methods.
Yeah.
Who coaches them? And the adults too, because a lot of times I see pictures. I'm not going to name the park, and I see these awful pictures of people volleying the wrong way, serving with this forehand grip. It's just embarrassing. I don't even want to see that, and I don't want to be known or be associated with that. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So.
I noticed that Ryan Mason out there, I love you, bro, Happy New Year, indicated that he wishes he was eating Mexican food with his grandfather or something like that.
Me, Weston, and my mom, my wife, and my grandpa are going to Mexico. Good for you. I'm glad that your grandpa's up to that.
Very good.
He unfortunately, he was not able to play our last tournament because his grandpa had a bad fall, and now they're taking care of him. They're helping him out. So That's good that he's even able to go out now.
Well, the beautiful thing is that not too long ago we did eat Mexican food together with the same mentioned regiment or regiment
Yes,
rather.
yes.
Except I don't think his wonderful wife was there.
No.
Neither here nor there. The grandfather was there. Weston was there. And do you remember what you ate that night? I think I.
Well, he said you gotta have this soup, this bean soup. And have you ever had it? And I said no. And so they brought it out for us. It was during Lily's tournament, remember? Yeah. And they brought it out for us. And I don't remember what we ate, but it was good. You know, he was right.
It was a nice place. All right. So real quickly, yesterday
What's your resolution, by the way?
Who asked me that?
No, I'm asking you because I see his is not to stress out about little stuff.
I actually wrote this and I was going to skip it as to not bore you. My resolution was this, and I wrote this. I'll show you. I wrote this. Okay. So my resolution is this. I meaning myself, I need to accept the fact that I'm getting older. I'm 45, and we have 5 children. And sometimes I feel like I still have to be the life of every party that I go to. And I mean party as a metaphor for just anywhere we go. I feel like that I have to be the person that exemplifies a chivalry or conduct or humility. I feel like that I have to be the trendsetter in the room. And as I get older, I realize that most of the time I'm more grumpy or tired than I am being that type of cognizant of being the life and the nucleus of any room. Sometimes I have to be able to realize that I'm getting too old to be the life of the party wherever we go, and that I don't need to focus so much on doing that. I need to focus more along the lines of how to stay rested, how to stay on the proper diet, how to stay good with my family. Because when I try to focus so much on being the life, the nucleus, the trendsetter in our life of people, I realize that sometimes I get grumpy or irritated or in a bad mood because maybe I'm not doing it as good as I used to do. So I think my New Year's resolution would be to accept the fact that I'm not 22 anymore, and that it's okay to wake up grumpy. And not trying to wake up and make sure that the whole house and the whole community and the whole club is, all copacetic and all happy-go-lucky. I feel like that I can't do that as well as I used to. And my New Year's resolution would be to accept that.
I think that's a good one. You can't you can't make people happy. 2, you can't have the same energy as you did last year. We do get older, yes.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm talking about like physically. I know we're all getting older.
Physically, and I'll be honest with you, and we'll talk about this in a private setting, but physically, I think that I would like to at some point hire an assistant pro to take my place on court, and then still handle business and stringing and who we want to teach and who we don't want to teach, because maybe they have a bad attitude and we don't have open segments for it. I think
I've actually done that before the new year started. I said to myself, Carla, I'm not going to teach people that are negative. I'm going to keep positive people, because then it becomes a chore. And this is not a chore for me. It's not a job for me. And I promised myself that I wouldn't teach anybody I don't want to teach, and I do that already.
Yeah, for me, it's like I always want to make every person we meet the best. But as I get older, I realize that there are so many people out there that want you to help them, and then you are already tied to people that are negative all the time. They talk about this, and they're just always negative energy. And the problem for me is I want to make even them happy. But the thing is I think we need to weed out that negative energy and only focus on those that are appreciative of being someone that shares the game.
Yeah.
All right. Anyway, yesterday we talked about a couple topics before the weather cut out. Number one was this: is Novak Djokovic in 2023, this upcoming year, in other words now, is he the one to beat? Would you rather take Novak Djokovic or anyone in the field moving into the Australian Open? We both agreed for once on Novak Djokovic. Hey, I have Florence Chan out there who has painted this 5K picture here, this one here, and sent me this hat, this Izod signature edition Djokovic hat. I think we both agreed for once that we both thought that Novak Djokovic would be the person we would take versus the field in all of 2023. I think Carla alluded to maybe not the U.S. Open. We know what happens when the U.S. Open rolls around. Everybody's tired. But early season, I think we both elected that Novak Djokovic would be the one to beat. You can call it the COVID chip. You can call it the Australia chip. How badly he was treated since the COVID pandemic came around. I think we both agree that he would be the person to beat in 2023. Do any of you have any opposite thoughts?
Well, I read today that because of what's going on in China, the restrictions are sometimes going to get a little bit tougher or something like that. But that the United States said that anybody traveling from the outside, they must see, I guess, some type of
for the U.S. Open.
Well, not just the U.S. Open. Anybody coming into the United States that's foreign needs to show proof that they are vaccinated. So there it is again for Novak. Can he even play the U.S. Open? Does it even matter?
For me, it's like being numb to things at this point. So at what point does the COVID thing become now just propaganda? Like in the U.S., we don't even really talk about it anymore. It's past taboo. It's just no one even thinks about it. There's no mask. So at what point do we continue to think that with the war in Ukraine, with the animosity between the U.S. and China and Taiwan at the epicenter of that, at what point do we ask ourselves, has the COVID pandemic now at this point become only continued propaganda to throw someone else under the bus? I'm too dumb to answer these questions, but it seems to me at this point in time that COVID now has become propaganda. What country can we slander and blame this on? At this point, I think for me personally, I'm done with it. I don't want to hear about it. If I have a cold, I got a cold. I don't want to hear about it. I'm done with it. What are your thoughts? Are you just?
I mean, I know a lot of we taught so many students. Everybody kept getting sick.
Mm-hmm.
It was a cold. It was the flu. It wasn't, but it just kept getting sick. On top of that, not only were they sick, they didn't know. Like it just lasted a long time. So I think that maybe we've all had it. We all went through different type of whatever, COVID, whatever. You know how it changes all the time, right?
Yeah.
I think our bodies just have to get used to what's out there.
Yeah, and Tupac Shakur said it best. Life goes on, and look, at this point for me, again, not going pro or against. I just at this point in my life, 2 years been on standstill, and everything that happened with Novak Djokovic, I'm just tired of hearing about it. If I'm sick, I'm sick. Great. I've done everything that's been advised for us to do a couple times over. I'm just done with it. I don't want to hear about it anymore. Okay.
Michael asked, was your father happy for Messi winning the World Cup? Well, we were having a tournament while the World Cup was going on, and I heard my dad and his wife yelling. They were very excited that Messi won. Go, deserves it. Good for Argentina. I didn't watch one match. I watched, like little highlights and stuff.
Yeah.
Not a big soccer fan. I'm sorry. Maybe that's a bad thing. I just can't sit there and watch soccer. And that's not the only sport I can, there's many I can't watch. But good for them. Yes, my dad was super happy.
Yeah. Okay. Next thing we talked about yesterday was, will Serena Williams play a tournament in 2023? I still think she will. We don't need to beat a dead horse with this. What are your thoughts on that? We did discuss a little bit about Venus Williams yesterday before the storm cut us out. And Carla alluded to the fact that the Australian Open wasted a wild card on Venus Williams because, quote unquote, from Carla, she's a mummy. She's a mummy out there. I did agree to Carla a bet. So the first bet of this year's 5K tennis shows, I volunteered for the first bet. The bet is whoever Venus Williams draws in that first match of the Australian Open as a wild card, whether it's Sabalenka or whether it's Shelby Rogers, doesn't matter, that I would take Venus Williams to win that match. If Venus Williams does win that match, Carla must wrap herself in toilet paper like a mummy and do the show that way, the first one after that. Or if not, I would do that. So that's the first bet on the table of 2023. And then lastly, this is right when we cut out yesterday. I had a segment written here about the 22-year-old young girl, Alicia Parks from Atlanta, Georgia. 22 years old, just tied at the end of 2022 this year, Venus Williams' record for the hardest and biggest serve that landed in the women's game at 129 miles per hour. And she had made a jump from, say, 250 in the world to 75 in the world at the very tail end of this year Why is that a big deal? Because she doesn't have to go through qualifying anymore at majors.
Great for her.
So has anyone heard of Alicia Parks? Has anyone witnessed her power? Has anyone seen how tall and towering of a young lady she is? Does anybody realize she is from Donald Young Stopping Grounds, the ATL? South Side represent, make that ha ha.
But she did train in Florida too. They did leave when they were
South Side still.
I have seen her before. I remember on our Facebook thread, I saw several coaches post videos about her. Didn't think much of her, honestly. I've seen a lot of 6'1" girls. Even when I played, they towered me. She is in her 20s, 22. Coco is still younger, much younger. I hope she does great. Am I jumping on that bandwagon yet? No. Women's tennis right now is so unpredictable. You can be hot and then not. So, no, I don't know.
Would you be shocked if this young girl, Alicia Parks, had a better year than Coco Gauff in 2023?
I will be shocked, yes.
Experience. Coco does have
the experience. I feel like Coco has a lot of experience.
She's got the experience.
I feel like that maybe the reason why many people talk about her is because I think Americans want to see another Serena and Venus. But I don't think we're going to get that for a long time, is what I told you. I think it'll be another 10 years before we see that. And just like we won't see another Novak, Nadal, or Federer, it may be another 20 years.
You know, the majority of young girls these days, no matter shape, size, culture, ethnicity, whatever, the majority of young girls and young boys, you see them and they have this smartphone, stuck in front of their face. I think in order to find another pair such as Serena and Venus, you're going to have to find a majority of young athletes that don't have to have their face plastered in their stupid idiot box all day. The same thing for Emma Raducanu. For the past year, we gave Raducanu hell, absolute hell. When she won the U.S. Open, immediately you and I came on the next day, I think, and we're like laughing about it and made references to Panetta and some other Italian players laughing at the fact that she won that major. And I went off one night about it, and I woke up the next morning like 30 people had unsubscribed, whatever. And the only way that I can have my mind changed about Raducanu in 2023 is if she finally becomes a warrior and stops worrying about being a princess in front of her smartphone. And I think
I don't think a smartphone is the problem, Justin. I have to disagree with you on that part.
Self-indulgence, social media.
Once they reach that level, there is no way that this device is your problem.
It can be a problem.
No.
Before you?
Okay, no. I'm talking about someone like Raducanu. I don't think this is her problem. I think her problem, you just said it, is worrying about looking good, worrying about being on Instagram, her fame. I don't think that she even spends time on this.
So let me touch on this just for a second.
I'm talking about people that have already made it to the pros on the top is what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about kids. I'm talking about someone that's like her that won a slam. I don't think this is the problem. The problem is that too many people told her, "You are great. You are awesome. I want you to be on my cover. I want you." They gave her too much money.
That takes time away.
But it's not this thing. It's because people gave her the money instead of letting her earn it, not just after one slam. That's what I'm saying.
Look, quote unquote, Emma Raducanu indicated that, quote unquote, success comes at a price. And success is going to come at a price that I am now willing to pay. Okay. So let me ask Raducanu a question before we call her Raducanu every single day as 2023 strikes. Okay. She is willing to pay the price at this point. What price is it? The price that she's willing to pay is to be great. You have to spend almost every waking hour on the court, training, eating, diet, tactics, game review, film, blah, 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 blah. And then whatever time that you don't have needs to be aimed at sleeping, diet, chilling out, the right people around you, and so forth. So my question is if quote unquote Emma Raducanu is ready to pay the price to be successful. Can Emma Raducanu cut off everything such as the Vogues and the pictures and the paparazzi, which involves this, and focus it all on tennis? Or is it just going to be maybe a little bit less of this? To be great in the sport, you have to train ad nauseum.
I agree with you.
You have to stick with it every second of every day.
People gave her the money. people gave her the money too soon, is what I'm saying.
And don't you think now she has the lifestyle? She has to be able to continue to make that money to pay her bills, right? To be able to buy to pay the mortgage of her mansions. I don't know.
I thought she did. You made a whole segment about her saying that her family came from money and therefore she didn't have to work hard.
Okay, well maybe the family's ready to retire and is knocking on the door for her to pay them their bills now.
With the thing with Halep, my phone just went away. But the thing with Halep was that there was something that was prescribed to her and it wasn't labeled right that had, the drug that they banned her for, and that it said on the article she's halfway from winning her case about being banned from tennis because of that.
Halep?
Yeah.
And that's another thing too. As we closed out the U.S. Open this past year, I think we did a show, one or two, between then and now. And we talked about Simona Halep and this unfortunate stream of events, or maybe fortunate for those that think she's guilty. I'm not saying I think she's guilty or not guilty of performance-enhancing drugs. But my question is this: where is Simona Halep now in retrospect to where she was the last show that we did? People throwing under the bus and kind of, I'm like ambivalent. I'm like ambiguous. I'm right in between, right? Where does Simona? Where does she stand now?
She's fighting the case. They're saying that she's halfway there or something like that.
Mike Walker said Halep is hanging out with. Mike Walker said Halep is hanging out with Justine Henin, and this is another very true aspect. Justine Henin, top of the world. And she pulls out because of some speculation of performance-enhancing drugs.
You know what's funny? Yesterday we were watching some show about pills. People are judging these athletes, but yet those that take Adderall, you should judge yourselves as well because it's called an enhancement. Yeah. I don't know because I don't take pills and I don't know shit about that. But I learned a lot yesterday. So these, we're judging these athletes, but yet 90% of Americans, or maybe 80, because it seems like in America it's a big thing, are taking Adderall, but you guys are okay with that. But you're not okay with athletes taking something that enhances.
And we say,
but yeah, that is an enhancement.
And we say that respectively. Carla and I, there's a couple things that we don't really talk about too much, but we're kind of proud of it. One of those things is that neither one of us takes any type of prescription medication. The first time I've been to a family doctor was recently because I've been dealing with this neck thing. That's another story for another day. Hopefully it doesn't result in surgery, but every time that we have a doctor's appointment, they always ask, do you take medications? And we were like, no, nothing, zero, like nothing. And they look at us like we're crazy. Medications are abound. And the show we watched last night was on Netflix, and it was about college students taking this prescription called Adderall. I don't know if you know what that is. I'm not quite sure. Never had access to that. But the problem is that in the college aspect of the United States, something like 80% of college students take this thing called Adderall. It makes them focus more. But yet people that live in, ghetto-ish type neighborhoods or trailer parks or whatever, the only thing close to Adderall they can get is smoking methamphetamine, which, kills them. And anyway, so the dichotomy is that here is, mainstream middle upper class America that's doing the same thing they're doing, and they're being glorified for it. But yet here's the part of America that can't afford or doesn't have insurance, and they're doing the same thing. It does the same thing to the receptors in the brain. It has the same properties, and they're getting thrown in prison for it. But ultimately, the consensus was this: how is it fair to people that go to college that don't have access to these focusing, very habit-forming and disastrous medications that cause hell on the kidneys and more? How is it okay and it's totally fine for this 50%?
And how many doctors admitted they just prescribed it if you were rich and stuff? Didn't have ADHD. Yeah. Just saying.
Yeah, and then, and also furthermore, this continued, and we were watching the same type thing, and this involved the NY University, NYU, New York, which is a very elite private college in New York, and there was this teacher that had been fired because the majority of students in one particular class had proclaimed that the teacher was too tough. So picture this as a teacher, an emeritus, a longtime professor, was fired from NYU because half the class failed and they complained that he was too tough. Well, the teacher came out and said, I can prove that these kids didn't go to class, they didn't study, they didn't turn their homework, and then they failed their finals. So the thing is at what point has students at college become a customer. In sales, I was in sales for 15 years before I focused straight into coaching. And there was an old saying in sales and business, the customer is always right. Have you ever heard this? The customer is always right. You want to get the positive survey, you want to get the positive feedback, no matter what the customer says or does, find a way to make them right. The student has become a customer. If the student isn't happy with their grade, they can complain enough and get the professor fired. So not only have students become the controller, the customer, but students have also now been given an edge of focus by means of popping a pill. It's a tough situation. It's a tough world. And for me, that's why I am staunch on the fact that I don't give my children a cell phone. I don't care how bad they scream, yell. I don't care how bad they want to go play dolls or not play tennis. They're going to play until I have no ability to make sure that they do play, namely adulthood, college, and so forth.
Yeah, very true. Yeah. Let me go back to Halep. Halep says this article says it appears that Halep has identified the source of how do you say it? Rosaxastat, that she tested positive for among supplements that she's been using. Crucially, the substance was reportedly found to be in a supplement without proper label.
Yeah.
It says, and now she is halfway there. It says she is halfway there towards clearing her name. It was on Tennis 365 was the site that was on. So I don't know.
Yeah, interesting things for sure. Okay, squashing this page. I'm going to toss this page out. We're going to get into the next set of topics. Squashing the New Year's Eve topic. Another year passes. Okay, another year passes. What are some things that you pick up on that make you feel like another year has passed? What are some things that make you realize that you're getting older?
For me, it's watching the kids get older. Then I realize I'm getting older. For instance.
Yeah, for instance.
Like, I got an email saying your son's graduation date has come out. And I'm like, holy crap, wait a minute. Jonathan just went into the Air Force Academy. Are you telling me that we're getting ready now?
To go to his graduation?
To go to his graduation. I just realized, wait a minute. Did time just pass that quickly?
Yeah.
And then I'm watching Christopher and I'm like, wait a minute. He is no longer living. It's just little things. And then Justin, the way he talks. And then, of course, I realize it on the court. I hit with certain students and I'm like, wait a minute, my body hurts more than it used to.
Mm-hmm.
And then I noticed I sleep a lot earlier.
That's okay. We get up at 4:30.
But but I didn't before. I was able to keep up at 12:01 if I wanted to push myself.
But we taught here and didn't have to wait. We didn't have to drive an hour to get to
the thing is, I actually look forward to coming home and going to sleep.
Me too.
I never look forward to that. I actually look forward to coming home, eating, and going to my bedroom.
Me too.
And I wasn't that way anymore. And then I noticed my kids would be like, hey mom, let's play this game at night. And I'm like, no, I really don't want to. I don't have energy for that anymore.
I agree with you.
So just those little things. And of course you look at your face and you notice, well, there's a couple more wrinkles there, that you didn't have before. But I'm okay with that. I have no problem with aging, physically. That's okay. That's part of life. I don't have a problem with that. I'm not going to hide that. But I do realize that time has passed.
Totally agree with you. A couple things that I jotted down writing this quick segment. Was when I go to the store these days, and this happened today to me in Walmart, and you were with me. You get all these aches and pains when you hit the mid-40s, and now at stores, you actually stop in the medical section and are looking for different heat wraps. So today, I've been having MRIs on my neck, and it's possible I may have to have some surgery at some point in time anyway. But I find myself in the medical section looking at different heat wraps for my neck or my knee or my back, right? I used to not pay attention to the certain supplements that are better for your skin, like HelioCare and some other things. Also, for me, I realized the same thing that you said. You took my last idea or my last example right out of my head. When I get home, whether it's 5:30, 6:30, it doesn't matter. Once I get home and once I go to sleep or going upstairs, I can't wait till I sit back and watch things like the evening news, the global news, the weather. Ryan Mason out there is like a very personal, close friend of mine. The only one that I have, honestly, that's not just a constituent. But I look forward to listening to lectures, and I look forward to listening to the weather, and I look forward to just chilling out on my bed in my own my own quiet space. And then I look forward to waking up at 4:35 in the morning to listen to the local news and to get the weather. I look forward to all those things that we used to laugh about. We used to laugh about what old men do when we were little. They just want to sit and talk about the weather. But now that's me. And I understand that.
Like, you know, when someone's like, oh, let's plan on going out. Oh, I don't want to do it. And I'm like, oh, I want to get dressed. Go, nah, I'm like, that's work.
Yeah, and you know, so many times when you're younger, you see maybe you know, a 50-year-old woman marrying a 30-year-old man, or you see a 60-year-old man marrying a 40-year-old woman, and you realize that, wait a minute, you know, when the novelty wears off, there's no way that can work.
There's some.
It's just because like, put it this way. Right now, if I was about to marry a 30-year-old girl, it wouldn't work out because the novelty would wear off, and then I'm just gonna want to go to bed. And sometimes I think about stuff like that. Like, there's no way that I could still go out to clubs. There's no way I can still go party all the time. I just can't. I have no interest in it. I just want to go home and go to sleep. And then I think that sometimes eludes people when they're going to different chapters in their life. You just have to accept the fact that you're older, and the young years are in the past, and it's time to get your kids where they need to be, right?
Yes.
That's how I feel like I'm getting older. I can't keep up with those younger than me anymore. And I'm okay with that.
Me too. I'm not trying to. Yeah.
Okay, next segment. What are the chances that Nick Kyrgios wins the Australian Open in 2023? What are the chances?
0.
0?
Not the Australian Open.
Mike Walker, do you believe that Nick Kyrgios has a 0 chance of winning the Australian Open? Mike Walker, 0 chance, bro? I don't know. Look, I'm sure the odds, betting on that, and you know, maybe Mike Walker, I'll go ahead and hint to the fact that I'm gonna ask you to place at least a small bet for me. And I won't get this the betting. Last year Mike placed a bet for me and I lost it miserably. But I thought the winning was gonna be like 30 grand. It was like 300 or something. You know what I mean?
Don't bet it.
No, I mean, I'm gonna take a little. I do suck at betting. If I actually bet, I lose. But if I don't bet and just talk about it, I win. It's like
he's not going to win it because it's in his turf, and it's very tough to win in your own turf, especially for the guys. I mean, he's not going to win it. No.
Hey, Mike gave him 20% though. Let's go. I think he's got 20%. I'm not even
20%. Yeah, 20% is a good number. Yeah, but that's about it.
Now, look, you can arguably say that Novak Djokovic is the huge favorite to win this Australian Open, right? Now, we know that Nick Kyrgios and Novak Djokovic have had ongoing beef for a long time on tour. Now, it has jumped onto my plate, or our plate, numerous articles that have indicated that Nick Kyrgios has reached out to Novak Djokovic to play doubles with him at Indian Wells this year.
Why not? Who cares?
Why not? Yes, but 2 questions jump to my mind.
He might not even be able to go to the United States.
So maybe the feud was all propaganda in the first place, so we can jump on something like this.
I don't think so.
Or B, maybe Nick Kyrgios' girlfriend has finally grounded him into the fact that, you know what? Bad boy time is done. Let's make a legacy for ourselves. Let's win a major, and no better place to do it than on your home turf.
I don't think so. I think the whole beef was real, but I think that Kyrgios learned how to respect him after he got his ass beat in Wimbledon. You know, he got his ass beat by him, so he learned how to respect him. I think that even Nick Kyrgios can appreciate, you know, someone being good. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah. And Mike says,
and then watching what he went
Mike says it perfectly. Novak sucks in doubles. I do too, by the way. I'm not a good doubles player. I have never advertised myself to be a good doubles player. Slice a lot. Serve and volley, it doesn't work too well in the doubles game. All right, so what are your thoughts on Novak Djokovic playing doubles with Nick Kyrgios? Just the photo shoot propaganda, you know, just a way to sell some tickets.
Kyrgios is pretty good.
Probably, yeah, he's a good doubles player. He's got big volleys, big game, big serve.
He's got very good hands. You need good hands up there.
Now, also, speaking of the Australian Open, I read an article the other day, and I'll pull it up and read it, a little bit of it to you. But I read that within the next 10 years, the future of the location of the Australian Open is in doubt. Okay. And I'll find it and read you some nuggets off of it. But some of the nuggets that I wrote here without quoting it are Tennis Australia is broke. The cities in which the majors are, Melbourne, Sydney, whatever, need new stadium courts that can't accompany the crowd, and they don't have the money to build it. And some of the locations prophesized, or that's the wrong word, postulated about the location is Shanghai, China. You know, I think for the longest time, people have always said, why isn't there a fifth major in China? And then COVID happened. And hey, hate China for that. But believe it or not, in the next 10 years, there is, from what this article says, and I'm finding it, there is a high likelihood.
Well, don't you think that maybe the reason why Australia is in trouble is because they shut down their country? So people were not able to maybe invest or spend money in their tournaments. I mean,
okay, so here's the article, just showing you, and I'll make sure I give credibility. This is on the Daily Mail by Chris Lines for Daily Mail Australia. Maybe Cam Williams out there. What's up, bro? Hopefully you're doing well. Cam's a really good guy. If you haven't checked out his play-by-play analysis, do it. Wonderful guy. No correlation, but we have communicated for a lot of years when he was still doing eBay videos on how to sell stuff from local thrift stores, which is how we met in the first place. Wonderful guy, by the way. But maybe he can chime in on this. Tennis Australia boss Craig Tilley warns Australian Open could leave Melbourne for Sydney or even China, as 2 years of COVID crowd restrictions have left the tournament on a brink of financial ruin.
That's what I said. The COVID restriction.
Yep. Okay, so the first paragraph, real quickly. The Australian Open is at serious risk of being stripped away from Melbourne and moved to Sydney and perhaps even China, as COVID crowd restrictions have left Tennis Australia penniless. Sounding the alarm, Craig Tilley, who even said the $1 billion of taxpayers' monies handed to the organization over the past decade to enhance Melbourne Park precinct was nowhere near enough to get it up to the standards of the other Grand Slam tournaments. Does anyone have anything to say about that?
Well, Michael says Australian Open ain't going nowhere. I've been to Melbourne, and that tournament makes tons of money.
Very credible source that's coming from.
They can make up the money. That's what I said, Michael Walker. I feel like they can make it up. Now they're allowing people to play, blah, blah, blah. They can definitely make up the money. They're just going to have to jack up their prices a little bit. They can definitely make it up.
Okay. Back to Kyrgios, and then we'll close that. We asked what the chances that you thought that Kyrgios winning the Australian Open was. I think the only person to answer was Mike Walker at 20%. I'm going to say he's got something like 35%.
It's still not going to win you the tournament.
Yeah, but, 35% in tennis with, 127 other competitors is a pretty damn good chance. Okay, anyway, but has Nick Kyrgios found love? And is that love finally grounding him? Or will the novelty wear off with her as it has been with, 500 other girlfriends? Ultimately, will he be back in the same position where he was prior to this new girl?
I don't know. That has to be. It has to be because of him, not because of who he's with. Sure, of course, the person you're with, if it's the right person, they'll help you grow. But I mean, that ultimately, that's up to him.
Good point. All right, shifting gears to the WTA Tour Women's Tennis, Petra Kvitova. By the way, when Carl and I first met, Carl and I would do the ATP and WTA bracket challenges. Mm-hmm. We would pick the players and try to, be the best draw to the very end. And Petra Kvitova was one of the players that we would always pick to almost win every tournament. Okay, that's been 13 years ago. Here we are today. Petra Kvitova secured her 30th. That's 30th top 5 win against none other than Pegula, the number 10 or number 9 or whatever number she is, the American player who I don't think is that great in the first place. But she beat her and secured her 30th top 5 win. Can Petra Kvitova add another major under her belt this year, whether it be Wimbledon, whether it be Australian?
She can't. We were watching that match with Ryan. And the first thing I said is, I don't understand why some of these players have to look up at their coach. Well, the coach she was looking at is going to be her husband one day because they are engaged.
Oh.
It's the guy that helped her out when she got stabbed. It was her coach at that time. So he let her stay, at his house. So I'm sure they hooked up. But I don't think so. I think her head is just not. If you have to look at your coach, I think a champion doesn't really need to know. They boss their coach around. They know what they want. And I don't feel like Petra has that anymore. I think she's unsure of herself at times. I'm sorry. Okay. When you look at Serena Williams, did she go look at her coach? When she was losing, she would look at Patrick. But when she was winning,
I was about to say, Serena got almost kicked out of the tournament.
That's what I'm telling you. When she was winning, she would tell them, shh. I'm boss. But when you're losing, you look at your coach. And that's why I don't think she will win. Just saying, if you're a winner, just like Iga, sometimes she'll be telling her coach, "Nya, nya, 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 nya," and he has to listen to her because she's winning. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
No, Petra's not winning anytime soon.
Look, I'm going to go ahead and throw this out there. Does anyone want to take a bet with me that Petra Kvitova wins one major this year?
I'll take the bet too.
So we're going to have two bets. All right, here we go. All right, so Carla and I now have Carla and I now have two, not one, but two not uno, but dos pending bets. Okay, so the first bet is that Venus Williams will win her first round at the Australian Open, no matter what, no matter who she plays. And the winner or loser of that will have to wrap themselves up in toilet paper and act like a mummy because she calls Venus Williams the mummy. I am now taking the second bet of this year, and that bet is that Petra Kvitova will win a major this year. I'm counting on either A, the Australian, B, Wimbledon, or D or C, I just skipped the French, being the U.S. Open. So what are we going to bet about this one? What are we going to bet?
I don't know.
What do you think?
I don't know.
What you guys tell us what we should bet. What should we, one of us is dressing like a mummy, and now I'm calling Kvitova.
There's no way. I'm sorry. And I know Michael Walker's called me out. He said Carlos Alcaraz looks like Juan Carlos Ferrero, but he's a young boy. He was a young boy who had never won a slam before. And finally he won his slam. And I found it annoying that he looked at his coach, but he had never won a big tournament like that. Now there is no reason for him to look at his coach. At one slam, you should know what you're doing. But I feel like he still will. Notice how no one's talking about him.
Who?
Carlo Alcaraz.
That's the next segment.
Notice how no one is talking about him. No one.
Next segment then. Let's get into it.
Wait, can Naomi Osaka win another one? It's all up to her, honestly.
That's a good answer.
It's all up to her.
It's up to her there.
She has all the tools. Yeah. It's up to her.
That's
Coaching
up to her.
is legal, and that is shit. You're playing a one-on-one sport, and that is bullshit. I would be pissed if a coach is coaching me while I'm playing my match. I don't even like to tell my daughter anything while she's playing, and she's 13. Even little Justin, who's 7. Come on, man, that's bullshit. You guys are baiting the game.
I totally agree with you. Couldn't agree more. Okay, let's keep it on women's tennis for a moment. Let's just keep it there just for a moment. Question: if you had to bet in 2023 on Iga Swiatek or the field, who do you bet on? Iga Swiatek or the field? This past year was all Iga Swiatek, and screw the field. I
think Iga, again, because she's so confident, in her mind, she feels like she can kick anyone's ass.
Yep.
And that is a good thing, a good way to go into. And she knows the field is weak.
Who has a better chance at remaining number one through next year, 2023? Carlos Alcaraz or Iga Swiatek?
Iga.
And why? Why? Because Djokovic wasn't around?
Exactly.
Djokovic wasn't around, right?
Did anybody see Zverev get spanked too? He's getting spanked. I don't know if he lost, but he was getting spanked.
Spanky.
Yeah, I don't know.
Speaking of Zverev, if you had to choose one player to roll with all 2023, would you choose Daniil Medvedev or Sasha Zverev?
I'll go with Medvedev. He had his baby. He's been, now that the year has passed, and maybe, people are now looking at all Russians as, oh my gosh, you are at fault for this.
Now, hold on. You mentioned just a second ago, just now, that Medvedev had his baby. Mm-hmm. Okay, Zverev had a baby, but his baby mama won't let him see him. So there's
no, I think they do now. I think she does now.
Either way, baby's mama didn't want daddy to see the baby, and Medvedev's like, "What's up, baby? I got you."
Carlos Alcaraz will have a tough time. Maybe he'll go through what Pete Sampras went, won one slam, and it took him a couple of years to win another slam because it happened to Sampras. But I feel like the field is going to come strong now. The field is against Alcaraz. He will not remain number one. Whereas Iga, the field is, they got to look at their coach. You got Pegula, who has no weapons, which Martina Navratilova said has no weapons whatsoever. She hits everything back, very consistent player. But there's not a weapon there that'll scare you. You got Petra that could lose in the first round, make it all the way to the semis,
Yeah.
And then you got Sabalenka, who could serve really great or double fault a million times. And you got Sakkari, who just looks like Sakkari with her buff body and stiff walk.
By the way, speaking...
You got Raducanu, who doesn't know whether she's going to win. She herself doesn't know whether she's going to win the match walking in. You know what I mean?
Yeah, she just goes with it.
Yeah.
She ebbs and flows. Okay.
Rune, can't stand Rune. Why? Because he's with Patrick. Can't stand the video. Can't stand watching the videos.
Yeah, his sportsmanship's an F-. Yeah, he got like a 2 on his SAT of sportsmanship. All right, how long? And we'll ask Trouble Mind this question. Trouble Mind, how long does Carlos Alcaraz remain number one in the world?
How many points does he have to defend at the Australian Open? That's the question.
Does Carlos Alcaraz deserve to be number one if Novak Djokovic would have played?
Yeah, if he earned it.
We're going to find out this year.
We're going to find out. Yeah.
We're going to find out this year.
Look,
we're going to really find out about that, and I can't wait. I think that's the storyline of the Australian Open 2023. If I were the tournament organizers that tend to pretend,
I would throw Novak and Alcaraz in the same draw.
Let's find out. Let's go. Exactly. We read the minds.
So Ryan said he will be one until Miami. My guess. Well, like I said, I don't know how far. How far did he get at the Australian Open? Was it 4? I don't remember. It depends how far he got in the slams and how many points he has to defend. Thank you, Trouble. To me, he's not the number one player.
Exactly.
Cam Norrie. Didn't Cam Norrie just beat
Nadal? Cam Norrie beat Nadal. And he's like, this is
oh.
my biggest win of my career. Man, Rafael Nadal is just playing tournaments now because he agreed at some point in the past to play the tournament before. Do you really think that Cam Norrie beating Rafael Nadal is a what is it called? Like a disclaimer of saying that he's not going to do well at the French Open?
He's not. We know that he's not going to do well at the Australian.
Yeah,
we know this. He's not going to defend. He won 2, right?
Yeah.
He's not going to defend his title. He'll win the French Open, like we said, and that's about it.
Yeah. Okay. So here's a poll question. Can you break this poll question out? First poll question of 2023, and it's still 2022.
I got to remember how to do poll questions.
Oh, be careful. If the video stops.
Wait, how do you do poll questions?
It's on her. Oh, I don't know. Be careful, girl.
Oh my God, I forgot how to do
your poll.
There you go. I forgot
poll question coming out. Does Rafael Nadal win the French Open in 2023? I guess you could put Roland Garros. A lot of people.
Nadal win the French
Does Nadal win the French Open or Roland Garros in 2023? I'm assuming, and assumptions are generally wrong, but I'm guessing that the majority of you say yes. And those that say no, I'm guessing that those are guessing not would be because Novak Djokovic is playing and they feel like that Novak Djokovic can do it again.
Alcaraz will not win it. There are a whole bunch of players that can beat him on that surface. Just saying.
Yeah. Okay. If Novak Djokovic is healthy in every single major this year, Australian, Wimbledon, US, and Wimbledon, does Alcaraz win another major this year? If Djokovic is playing in the same major that Alcaraz is, does Alcaraz win a major? I don't think so. I think Djokovic's granddaddy and a little grandson just needs to, be lucky he won that one.
Yes, Nadal beat him in the semis. Remember? I think it was the semis that he beat him.
Wow, 71% have said no.
But that's 7 votes, and those are all Novak fans.
Hey, 7 votes is a population. If we look at statistics, you have a sample, you have a population, you have a group, you have 7 votes, believe it or not, 71%.
I remember
would be like 5 votes.
I remember the year I chose Nadal not to win, and even Rahesh is like, you said he wouldn't win, and he won. We all thought he wouldn't win because he had lost every Masters that he entered except the last small one, and he still won it. You can't bet against him.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't think Alcaraz remains number 1 until the middle of next year. Or I think he will until the middle of next year. I don't think that Novak Djokovic can overcome the number 1 spot. Even if he wins the Australian Open, it's possible. Check my math on that. A lot of you statisticians are.
Every year is different. Yes.
Yeah.
We do say every year is different. I've been saying that.
Yeah.
Every year is different. How many times did I fight with Novak fans? You don't know if something's going to happen to him. Look, it did. Look what happened to him. I always kept saying that. He should be a 25. But again, Nadal could win the most guaranteed slam for Nadal is obviously the French Open. If he doesn't win the French Open, then he's in trouble.
All right, shifting gears for a moment. Does anyone have any rare, or not necessarily rare, but interesting dark horses, ATP or WTA for Australian Open, not necessarily winning it, but deep into the second week, round of 16? Does anyone have any, hey, watch out for this guy? What about the guy Shelton, the young American player?
Don't know too much about him. I know he's an up-and-coming player. I don't know.
What about the 6-foot bomber from Atlanta that we just talked about, Alicia Parks? What about her? In the girls' games, you're bringing 130-mile-an-hour serves and holding it and landing 70% of them. Watch out. What about Big Foe? What about Big Foe? Look, there's a couple things that I like. There are a couple things that I really like a lot. Tennis is number one, obviously. My family, wife, damn, she's hot. Number two, but there's three things that I like outside of that. Shoes, I love sneakers, I love necklaces, and I love watches. So Tiafo came out the other night, and maybe he's had it on for a while, and I just
We know we know Tiago has a thick butt, my lord.
okay, but look at his necklace though. So look, we had these 5K charms made for us for a while, and it took two jewelry stores to get it right, and finally we got them right. And then I got her this one for Christmas, the 5K with the Mariner link. But I noticed that big faux. I noticed that big faux had a big faux necklace. Boom! Look at that. See it? I drew an arrow to it, right? Do you think Big Fo's ready to make consecutive Grand Slam finals till maybe you win one in there? I like Big Fo. I like Big Fo when I cannot lie. You other brothers can't deny. Love Big Fo with that itty bitty way she gets sprung. Toe got it going on, right? I love Big Fo. Oh, and by the way, Big Fo has epic sportsmanship.
Yeah, I like him.
Okay, Big Fo was just playing in the United Cup, and his partner, or not his partner, but his opponent had an injury, a spill, and just like always, Big Fo goes over there and checks him out. What's up, man? You good? Love Big Fo. One person that I would love to see as a dark horse to do big things is Tiafo. Love him. Great story. Where he comes from and his dad and the whole deal. Let's go, Big Fo. That's my man I'm pulling for in 2023.
Me too. I like Tiago.
Let's go, Big Fo. Great sportsmanship. Okay, shifting gears. We already talked about the story about the NYU students that got the teachers fired, right? So we'll scratch that and let's move into two things. American football, just for a moment. There is two aspects of American football that is happening now. Number one, the NFL playoffs. You notice?
Oh, I like NFL. I can't say college.
Yeah, you notice that I haven't shaved, right? I have hair on my face. That's because we are in football season, and I'm from San Francisco. Was born there, and the 49ers are into the playoffs. So I'm not going to shave until they lose. Now, granted, they may lose this week, but they've already clinched their division. They're already in the playoffs, so they're probably not going to play a lot of their starters as to save them for the playoffs. So I bring this up because I love the 49ers. It's my home. Love California. Sit. And hopefully one day we can retire there on that property that we have. I hope that's the case. So anyway, I'm not going to shave until the 49ers lose. But if they lose this upcoming weekend, in other words, tomorrow, mañana, doesn't matter because it's not the playoffs. And I have a feeling they might lose against the Raiders just to save their best players for the playoffs. College football. Is anybody watching college football? Alabama Crimson Tide was just playing. We live in Alabama, but I'm not an Alabama fan. The Crimson Tide. I'm not an Auburn fan. War Eagle. I graduated from the University of South Alabama. Jaguars, and we now have a football team. So let's go. Even though we lost our bowl game. Okay. The last couple things. Ons Jabeur, the Tunisian young lady that was the first. Correct me if I'm wrong. The first African lady to have made a major final, and she made two of them last year. Is that correct? Something like that?
I think so, yeah.
Ons Jabeur made the cover of Vogue magazine. And I did not know that Ons Jabeur's nickname is the Minister of Happiness. Let's go. Be kind, because everyone you meet is fighting a tough battle. And I wanted to show you a picture of the cover of Ons Jabeur on the cover of Vogue. Boom. She's kind of vibrant thing like you, Carla. Got that dark hair, the dark eyes.
Okay.
Yeah, I like that. She's got the little turtleneck on.
Whatever you say.
Chin, chin, chin. All right, Ons Jabeur, congratulations. I'm sure there is a continent of young ladies that are absolutely idolizing you at this point, and they should be. My question is this: can the Minister of Happiness make another Grand Slam final this year? And better yet, can she win one?
No.
Who's going to stop her?
Anybody.
I don't know. She made two Grand Slam finals.
Yeah. So did Serena when she came back.
Here's a question. Here's a question. Last year, Ons Jabeur made two Grand Slam finals. Didn't win either. But did any other girl, whether they won it or not, make two Grand Slam finals? Good poll question. Can anyone answer that?
Does anyone remember second place?
Doesn't matter. Ons Jabeur, repeat. Ons Jabeur made two Grand Slam finals last year. 128 people in one tournament, 128 people in another tournament. She made two finals. She was the best two out of 128 twice.
Good for her.
My question is there any other girl on tour, no matter who it is, that made 2 finals, whether they won it or not? Damn good accomplishment. She was the top 2 players in 156 matches, or 256 players. Big deal. Okay. Last thing that I got, and we're going to scratch this show. I must give my MVP for 2022 from an athlete standpoint across all sports. It's a tie between 2 people. Tie between 2 people. MVP across all sports: baseball, football, cricket, golf, you name it. Every sport out there: surfing, tennis, billiards. I don't care. Top 2 athletes of the year. Number 1, I got to give it to Lionel Messi. Okay, you know, the soccer player won the World Cup, even though I'm not a huge soccer fan, namely because I don't know the rules. But you know who the number 2 is, tied? Luka Doncic. Luka Doncic, the Dallas Mavericks, Slovenian. I think he plays at guard, but he can play the point wherever. Luka Doncic. Does anyone have any 2 athletes that have dominated sports better this year, 2022, than Luka Doncic or who did I say? Luka Doncic or Lionel Messi? MVPs of the year in all sports. Messi, Doncic. Let's go. All right, peace out. We will see you guys soon. And until next time, be kind, because everyone you meet is fighting a tough battle. Much love.
Adios.